like Rolex, like you might think you're competing against Rolex, but like Rolex is, they're not competing against you. Like they're running their own race. You're not in the same league. Don't shoot at the same baskets. Don't pay the same taxes. And
Ain't the same. All right, go
oh man,
ahead.
yes, sir. Man, they've been gone. And that's what it tells me, man. Like you said, as far as like marketing masterclass, branding masterclass, like you said, they're in a league of their own. And like you said, even with like price increases, like even they can raise it, 3%, 5%. Welcome. You are now watching Due Time Presents The Watchers. I'm your host, Rod Dye, aka Rod the Watcher, and I'm here with the one, the only, Rio the Watcher. How you doing today, my guy?
I'm great, my brother. How are you?
I'm doing very well, doing very well. Hold on, before we talk about what's on wrist, what are you wearing today, man? I see a hat. What you got? What you got going on, man?
Oh no, man. You know my Buckeyes, man. I'm always an advocate, man. I said I was gonna start wearing more of my alumni gear just
Yeah,
randomly out and about so people know how I'm moving. If there's any other questions of how I'm moving, this is how I'm moving.
that's how you moving. Okay.
Champions, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Do we got the record on there?
No, it's from 2024 though.
Okay, yeah. I mean, they won a title
Not
regardless.
2023.
Regardless if they were undefeated or not. Champs are champs. They got it
Yeah.
done.
They don't need to be undefeated.
They got it done. They got it done. It's just better when you are, but it's all good.
I don't know. Ali is called the greatest. He took a loss before, so
Hey, he took several of them. It's all good. Sometimes the champions lose, man, but it's all good. But we got a action packed, man. We got a packed episode today, man. But before we get into it, we always start with what's on wrist, man. And this is very, very timely for the theme of today's show, man. I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off. Uh, show this. I wore this a couple episodes ago, man, but we'll go ahead and show it again. Got Rolex Sky Dweller. Rolex Sky Dweller, man. Speaking of colleges, as I mentioned previously, this is one that I got when I got my MBA from the Pennsylvania State University.
Penn State, okay.
Sir, man. And yeah, the AD's like, it's not blue, it's not the Nittany Lion blue. I'm like, oh, I'll take the mint green. The mint green's fine. It's all good.
No, it's fine. Fine.
If that's what you
got, I'll take the mint green.
I'll go ahead and take. Yeah, all good.
So, real quick, just for our viewers, man, if you could say, why was that the watch that you wanted to celebrate of getting your MBA? Like, why was the Sky Dweller the watch?
Man, just because it's like I said, I had a couple of Datejust already. For me, it just signified like the next level. Like when I graduated with my MBA, obviously I think career wise, just from an accomplishment standpoint, like that's, taking things to the next level, and, as far as like Rolex, the most complicated watch, I mean, here it is. So, I was ready to kind of step things up. I was looking at it. And the interesting thing is, I know when we started this journey, it was a watch I didn't like. I remember saying like, I don't know if I like the Sky Dweller until I seen it in store and had it on wrist. I'm like, oh, I like it. I like it. Need it. So when I actually went to the authorized dealer, I had gave him gave him like this one, either the blue, I say either blue or green, or the like the GMT Bruce Wayne or the Batgirl. So I gave him like 4 watches. I'm like, I'm open to all of them. I'm open to all of them actually. So he had texted me like 2 weeks before I graduated, like 2 weeks after I went into the AD, and we'll get into that in this episode. But 2 weeks after I went to tell him that, I got the text like, hey man, I got your graduation watch. So I'm just like, I remember texting you. I'm like, I didn't even know which watch he was referring to. And then he texted me the picture of this one. I'm like, oh, I'll be there in an hour.
I'm on the way.
Absolutely. So yeah, man. But actually, we'll get into that later though, man. But that's
for sure.
Yeah, it's a big boy wear.
It's an incredible watch, brother.
Best presents for sure, man. So, man, how about you, man? What you got on today, man?
I'm rolling with the Maurice Lacroix, man. Iconic, man. Chronograph, ceramic, bezel. I've been really just daily in this for a minute, man. Shout out to Andre, the ambassador of the Americas for Maurice Lacroix, man, for sending this out to me. I have had the opportunity to really sit with this watch, So it's a really dope watch. I really like. I think more people should start like taking a look at Maurice Lacroix. They're offering Swiss made. You can get at the entry level that you are able to get a full ceramic watch under $5,000. Where if you wanted to go AP, add three more zeros to that, or at least a couple more zeros, $500,000 for the blue ceramic, possibly open work at that. So yeah, I've really been enjoying it. The strap is super comfortable. 100 meters of water resistance. Like I can't state enough how much somebody like people are like, bro, what you got on, bro? That's so sweet. Like, I'll just give them some information more about Maurice Lacroix, man. I want to try on some more of their offerings. They got some masterpiece collections that they've been dropping out lately that I really want to take a look at.
Yeah, shout out Maurice Lacroix, man, and shout out the guy Andre as well. We'll work with him, working to get him on the Watchers. He'll be on soon enough, so stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for that. So, quick disclaimer: this episode is about Rolex. So let's just go ahead and get that out there now. Let's go ahead and just set the stage. This episode is about Rolex. There we go. So no, so first we want to touch on, I know there's actually some reports that came out about, 2025 and, the highest selling brands from, the primary retail channels, so MSRP, and then also on the secondary market as well. And well, what do you know? The number one in both categories by a landslide.
Both categories.
By a landslide is Rolex, man. Rolex came in at over $12 billion in retail sales. Over.
You said with a B, right? 12 billion.
Big B's. Big B's, yes, and over $5 billion on the secondary market as well. So what that tells me is that Rolex is by far and away the leading watch brand, which comes to no one's surprise, man. But what do these numbers tell you?
That Rolex is performing a masterclass as far as financial assets is concerned, where you have it's two layers to the economy, where on a retail space, they are showing you how they're leading with prestige, scarcity. And then flip side, on the secondary market, you can show that these products, a lot of them, not all of them, but we're just talking about across the board. Generally, you have a lot of liquidity in it, and it gives you real time pricing. So they are able to see how the market reacts to them from a retail point of view, and then the buzz that's going on around it, because they're not blind. They're watching everything that's going on, just like we see it, and just how, the market dictates, hey, if I know that people are buying this on a secondary market, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 more, anytime I'm doing a little increase on, our retail price, there's not a lot of arguments going around. You know what I mean? Because people are paying more for a lot of these watches. So that's what it tells me. I feel like they're just showing the entire industry that they're performing a masterclass in financial assets.
Yeah, and I'll just put it like this. What this tells me is that, to borrow a bar from Hove, like Rolex is already home. You have brands like aiming for them, competing for them. When you have like fanboys of other brands online, like taking shots at them or whatever, they talk about like their movement or their finishing is superior to Rolex. It's like Rolex, like you might think you're competing against Rolex, but like Rolex is, they're not competing. They're not competing against you. Like they're running their own race. You're not in the same league. Don't shoot at the same baskets. Don't pay the same taxes.
Hang the same. All right, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
man, they've been gone, and that's what it tells me, man. Like you said, as far as like marketing masterclass, branding masterclass, like you said, they're in the league of their own. And like you said, even with like price increases, like even they can raise it, 3%, 5%. And what their pieces command on a secondary market, they can, like, that's really what the market is. So people are already paying that. They can increase their MSRP steadily. And it's still like, and people are still going to buy it. They're still going to wait for it. And yeah, so even with the dynamics of like the whole like AD process, which we'll get to here shortly, like they're still in a firm control. And I think we talked about this offline. Like yes, they have like they have like I feel like Rolex CPO is almost like its own, almost like a subsidiary, even though it's all Rolex, but it's like the Rolex CPO is dominating the secondary market. Like they're just
500 million, I think, approximately about a little bit over 500 million, what they've done. And there's small companies that, independent companies, micro companies, that haven't done 500 million in comparison.
yeah. So before we go on to we look at the rest of the companies on the top 10 list, but I just want to ask you real quick: is there a bad Rolex watch?
Is there a bad one?
Is there a bad Rolex watch? Like, is there a watch to where you could say like, okay, I know it's a Rolex, but no, that's a bad watch to buy. And I know it's all in the eyes of the beholder.
Yeah. So that's where I would argue. I think that's where it's all in an eye of the beholder. There are watches that if you talk, it depends on who you're talking to, right? So there are watches that, we come across them on social media where dealers will say, that's a dog, this a dog, that's a dog. But we also got to look at it from the point of view that their perspective. Somebody told me something like, okay, so we could both see a Lamborghini coming down the street, right?
Yes.
I'm looking at it from the street light. You're looking at it from your office building. Somebody else looking at it from the sidewalk. We all have different point of views based off of our own perspective. It's still a Lamborghini, right? So me as a consumer, if I like a certain model, let's say it's a date just smooth on Oyster or something like that, or smooth on Jubilee, as a consumer, I can understand why there's people that like that. They might want the day just in it's a sportier watch. And then the same watch from a dealer point of view, say, hey, this might be a harder watch to move for me in my inventory. It's a harder watch to move. And then you have another perspective as somebody as like a or a retailer. They might say, hey, this could be somebody's perfect first watch for them. So it all depends. If I am going to answer that question, the answer is, to me personally, no. But if I'm being objectively, yes, there are some watches that are not, the best. That Rolex offer, but they have a majority, like the majority of their watches is overwhelmingly superior or successful, I should say.
I agree. I don't think there's really an inherently bad Rolex watch. Obviously, there's some that I'll say I don't really care for, too much, but I just feel like it's one of those brands where if you want a good watch, I mean, any one that you buy, like it's still a Rolex. And even those that don't, 2 or 3x in value the moment you buy them, even some that may hold their value, or even, you may take like a slight haircut if you try to resell it. For one, everyone's not trying to resell their watch. But also, even if you do have a resell it, even though you take a haircut, you're not going to sell it for 50 or 60% less than what you bought it for. That name alone is going to help you, retain that value. And so, especially in comparison to other brands, so I don't feel like there's like an inherently bad Rolex watch. Now, obviously, as far as like preferences, everyone has their preference, and so we can get into that as well. Also, we got a lot to cover here. So, if I look at the rest of the top 10, obviously we have, as far as primary market sales, we have Cartier at number 2 with just under 4 billion, 3.9.
Cartier.
To the yeah.
I love Cartier, bro.
Yeah, so they're now number 2. Obviously, of course, like they're number 2, AP 3. We have Patek Philippe 4, and Omega 5 dropping down to 5. So, what does this tell you? As we look at the rest of the list, we'll just go ahead. Richard, as you see here on the screen, Richard Mille 6, followed by Longines, Vacheron Constantine, Breitling, and then we have Tissot rounding out the top 10. So, what is the rest of the top 10? What does that tell you? Anything that stands out for you?
You know what stands out for me? Richard Mille. Richard Mille hopping in as number 6 on this list. Founded in 99, but like their first watch probably came out in the year 2001. Mm-hmm. What's it, 25 years? In 25 years.
Relative young brand.
Relative, like they super young. I think if I looked at some of the numbers that Morgan Stanley came out with, and anybody can fact check this, but I could be roughly, this is a rough estimate. Based off of how many watches they sold, the average watch price was about $275,000.
Yeah. Yep.
That is significant. Significant than the fact that you guys did $2 billion brand 25, and I know they receive a lot of hate, they receive a lot of flack, and if you don't like it, that's like, hey, more for the ones who do like it. But you, what you can't say to me is that it's not impressive what they're able to exude by putting them on the right wrist of the right people. Watches is an extension of self-expression. So certain group of individuals who can afford this watch decided that they want this to be a part of their self-expression. And it's not one or two guys. It's not a certain group of people. These are people who are thriving to, I should say, striving to have these watches on their wrists. And it's super impressive that they are literally in the top 10. And let me tell you some of the names and the brands that they're beating out. Longines, Vacheron Constantin, Breitling, Tissot. That is super impressive. That shows me that, to me, in my personal opinion, it's not necessarily about people buying more watches. I don't think more people are going to start buying more watches the way the economy is. I think the people who have a lot of money are going to save their money and buy the brands that they want to actually buy. It might be more people saying, hey, I'd rather spend $30,000 for this watch as opposed to $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 a few times with lesser brands. And if they believe in your brand, they will spend the amount of money that your brand costs. So that stands out to, that's the most impressive thing that stands out to me, other than Rolex beating out the next five combined. But yeah.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. That stands out to me. Like you said, Richard Mille, I mean, they make what, between 5,000 and 6,000 watches a year. But even like we talk about like AP and Patek Philippe, like they're making 50,000 watches a year as opposed to Rolex making like 1,000,000. And the fact that they're just placing, that they're holding firm in the top five, I think that says a lot. One thing I want to say too is that, I know you get this question. I get this question a lot as well. People reaching out, they want to buy a luxury watch aside from Rolex, and they always ask what brands they can, buy, and which brands do we recommend that, that have good value retention, that are, credible. Here you go. Here you go, right here. There's 10 of them right here. And even like if you want something that's a bit more affordable, you have Tissot at the bottom as well. I enjoy Tissot. I like Tissot. I like the watches they make. But here you go. You have, and then you have, Holy Trinity, Vacheron now. That Vacheron is definitely a big boy price point, but nonetheless, when you talk about quality, we talk about, prestige, heritage, you have right there, and VC for sure. So Longines, quality watch as well, more of a, entry level to mid level luxury brand as well. And obviously, the shout out to the Zulu time that's held us down for a long time now. Absolutely. But yeah, that's what it tells me. Yeah. But yeah, just to see, like I said, Cartier holding strong. And the interesting thing about Cartier and their watches, like they always get, they're always, strong in the top five, but I feel like they always get, knocks on them as far as like their actual like horological value, but that doesn't seem to matter because like, with the Santos, like as far as like their movement, like it's not a, hard horology movement by any means. It's a, from what people say, like a pretty basic movement, but that's not what you're buying Cartier. You're buying it for the name. And as we always say, like there's a lot of people, the watch industry, though it seems like there's a lot, it's very niche. And most people are just general luxury buyers, and they're just buying it, for the name. And I think that shows here. And like, just like buying a Rolex doesn't necessarily make you a watch person. Buying a Cartier doesn't necessarily make you a watch person either. But yeah, so, and then you see in the secondary market here, pretty much just the same names, kind of just reordered. I do see it like IWC, and then you have Hublot. One thing I'll say, like, even though like in the watch space, you see a lot of people bag on Hublot, it's kind of like a thing to bag on Hublot. I see a lot of Hublots in the wild. So people are wearing Hublot People are wearing Hublot, as they should. They like Hublot, buy Hublot. Why would you like, man? So
A lot of guys who wearing these watches are hanging out on these social media platforms or on YouTube. They're living their life and they're wearing their luxury watch that they like, that they spent their hard earned money. Like, I mean, I know it's fun that we like have these conversations on social medias, these little debates, but in real life, it's the top 10 watch on the secondary market. And, you could get a lot of watch for how much you can get. I mean, if they're going for $15,000 and you can get it for like $5,000 to $7,000. I mean, that's a win. So, and it's an established brand. And you were dealing with like proprietary, like even proprietary cases and materials and innovation on different levels where,
the way they pioneered that. When you talk about as far as like experimenting with different materials, yeah, no, I love the spirit of Big Bang. So
yeah, absolutely.
I look like I would.
Somebody said that to you under the post.
I would, like I do.
So Rod said he liked a certain watch, when on a post where somebody was saying how Hublot gets a lot of hate, and he was like, "Hey, I like the spirit of the Big Bang," and then somebody commented under Rod and said, "You look like you would," which was crazy.
It's hilarious,
but it's laughable.
Yeah.
It's laughable.
But I can wear it and you can't. Like, you feel me? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. So I do.
What do you think about? Can I ask you something about this list real quick?
Yes, sir.
I want your opinion. What do you think about Omega dropping? Omega in watch communities, their name holds a lot of weight as far as enthusiasts are concerned. They have the Moon's watch. They have the James Bond watch. So they have like ties to big cultural pop culture moments. But where you have, like you said, right? If it's about horology and stuff like that, Cartier may not always push the boundaries when it comes to complications with their timepieces, but more people are buying them. What does that tell you about Omega that they have dropped now 3 spots? Because I recall them being number 2 for a while. Now they're number 5.
Yeah, I feel like Omega needs to go back to the drawing board, honestly. I feel like they have some great models. I think they're obviously, I think the Speedmaster Professional is great. I think the Seamaster is great. I like the Aquaterra. I feel like I'm in a minority by saying that I like the Planet Ocean, but I just feel like even within those models, they just have so many variations. And I think they need to, we have to make too many decisions for customers. They don't make a decision. It's almost like paralysis by analysis. Like if you look at our plug, when you go to Just Chicken, it's a very concise menu. It's like you're getting chicken tenders. You're getting fries or a salad. You're getting loaded fries. Like, it's a very concise menu. Like, we're telling
a sandwich or a biscuit. What you want to do?
What do you want to do? So I just feel like Omega has too many options. Like, they're trying to please everybody, and therefore, and I also feel like they just need to go back to the drawing board as far as like their messaging as well, because it's like, how long are you going to live off of this watch made it to the moon?
Forever.
I the only watch to make it to the moon forever, right?
Yeah.
And then also too, I feel like the new watch buyer that's coming into, that's coming of age, like, I could be totally wrong. Do people under 35 care as much about James Bond as those that are, 35 and older? Like, as far as like the new watch buyer, like, I'm just being honest, like, yes, even like our generation, like we had GoldenEye on 64, and we got a chance to,
And a lot of people bring that up, which is crazy. And I don't even interrupt you, but I would think people would be drawn more to like the movies, which they are clearly. Yeah. But it's amazing how many people in our age bracket, when we mentioned why they wanted the No Time to Die watch, and they mentioned like the Nintendo 64 Golden Finger game, which is I just think that's fascinating. But
I never seen one James Bond movie. My only exposure was to be honest. That's crazy. I know the relevance of the movie, obviously,
for sure,
and the mystique around the James Bond figure, but like,
so it doesn't impact you in that kind of way.
It doesn't pull me at all. I just like to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? But like that's what I think. Like, I just think they need to like refresh their messaging. Not to say that they can't continue to, like lean on that, but also just like I don't know, like I'm gonna say they need to reinvent themselves, but it's like how long are you gonna live off of this watch making it to the moon? You know, I like the watch personally. We just got an Omega um, boutique here in Columbus, and we'll actually be getting the diamond seller. So I actually went there. I mean, shout out to Diamond Seller. They treat me well, and yeah. So and it's just like like I said, I went there to watch it. They're great. Watches are great. They have heat. I just and obviously they're still performing very well. Let's be clear, but just the fact that they were initially seen as the alternative to Rolex, but um, I mean, in theory, yeah, but as I mentioned earlier, like they're not competing with Rolex. And also think too, even though they're not on this list, I was talking with the AD yesterday, and they're telling me like Tudor is encroaching on a lot of these brands that that are kind of in that mid-tier space. They're encroaching on Tag Heuer, they're encroaching on Breitling, they're encroaching on like Longines, and they're encroaching on Omega as well. Obviously, these brands are still performing better than them, but we could talk about this in another episode. Obviously, they benefit from proximity to Rolex, but that's a part of it as well. And then kind of like you said as well, the way the economy is going, it's like people are still buying these brands, obviously, but people are saying like, well, maybe instead of this like Seamaster, maybe I'll just hold off and go get an Explorer, go get a Datejust, go get an Air King, go get an Explorer too. Save up for a sub, or it's like what, instead of doing this, maybe I'll just put a little more with it, and I'll just go get an OP, even on the secondary market, because obviously people are buying them there as well. And so I feel like that middle, it's like a microcosm of what's going on in society. Like the middle class is getting squeezed, and so that's interesting, man. As far as okay, so the next topic, kind of getting back to the crown here, and like so, why why do you think Rolex wins? Like, what is it? Like, why do you think Rolex wins?
There's no uncertainty when you're buying a Rolex what you're getting. You know what you're buying. You know what you're buying, period. And it doesn't matter what your intentions are or intentions were. You got the Rolex buyer who don't care about watches, but they hear the Rolex name. The first thing that people ask you and I didn't even have to be there for you to hear this when they's like, oh, I heard you into watches now. You got a Rolex? That's the first question that's generally asked. Non-watch people trust Rolex brand instantly. It's the default luxury watch. And I think what Rolex and Cartier has done is to show how to run a luxury company in general. And so I think a lot of luxury companies should like take heed on how they carry themselves as a brand, how serious they take their storytelling, what it looks like to walk with consistency. Their designs barely change. I remember Virgil Abloh saying that he learned, no, RIP to Virgil, but he said that when something's already mastered, you only need to like have a variation of 3% to deviate from what you've already perfected. And people say, a lot of people, oh, Rolex don't have this many complications. Rolex don't do this. They don't push the limits. They don't do that, which I disagree with.
And most people don't care. The overwhelming majority of people don't care.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like
so when you're looking at it like that, their designs barely change. It's timeless. Look at Porsche; their designs barely change. Yes, there is change and innovation and stuff, but if you line up all the 911s, you could tell like the variation of change from then to now. So I think that, and then the vertical integration. Rolex pretty much controls almost everything when it comes to like their quality, their supply control, everything. So what they sell you is a certainty that when I'm spending my money, it's for certainly respected, it's worth something, it means something to people, and it has value. So they sell certainty. That's why they win.
They sell certainty, and also just like so just restraint as far as just not wanting to just like flood the market and try to get like every dollar. Like they're I mean, it's like it's just a master class. It's a master class in marketing. It's a master class. It's a master class in just business operations as a whole. And there's a reason whether it's a modern, whether it's a modern Rolex or a neo vintage version of it or a vintage version of it. Like for one, they all retain their value, and it's like it doesn't matter which one you get. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like they all have a charm to them. Some argue the other ones may have a better charm. And even then, like there's just a floor, even ones that are like 30 years old, there's a floor that, that's just not seen in other brands. And it's just, I mean, just the fact that it's almost like almost always love using sports analogies. It's like they've changed the game. They've made it, they made it seem like a watch isn't a quality watch unless it can retain a certain amount of its value or you can resell it for more. And it's almost like Floyd Mayweather in that zero, where it's like it's not going undefeated. Like you're looking at the boxer differently. And like people are looking at brands differently because they can't take it and flip their watch. You see it in sneakers as well. And it's like there are many quality watch brands out there. We just showed you 10 of them. We just showed you 10 of them. And they just like they are the de facto standard. They are the de facto standard, man. And I know why, and there's obviously, critics and, defectors that will go against them. And that's a lot of it has to do with the access to them and the AD process. What's your take? What is your take on the AD process? If there's enough, people know what it's like. I mean, people have heard over and over again as far as like what the AD process entails. What's your perspective on it?
I think it's genius. I'm looking at it from like who once remember the perspective conversation I was just talking about? Am I the guy looking at the Lamborghini from the window? Am I looking at it from the driver's seat? If I'm looking at it from the driver's seat, it's perfect. And that's what Rolex is looking at it from the driver's seat, right? So the perspective is that, some people feel like it's broken, it's full of it and whatever it may be, but it's absolutely engineered to be the way that it is. And the fact that people can remember a time where it wasn't like that. I could walk in and just get this and I could walk in like that. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Yesterday's demand is not today's demand. So the fact that they were able to pivot and make the people who like think about it, man. If you used to could walk in and get a Daytona and you right at one point in time, or you could walk in and other than the Daytona in 2016, you could walk in and just literally just get whatever watches that you wanted to get, right? And then one day the market changed and now you don't have to do that. And like now you have to get on a list and now you have to wait and now you have to be allocated a watch. Most brands would like think that their company was going to go under by doing that. They was able to, have some gatekeeping behavior. Some people might start feeling like they're unworthy, but at the end of the day, that exclusivity creates a desire. And then that turns that buying experience from you buying a watch to you having some kind of an achievement. It's not a transaction anymore. You are succeeding in something. You have strived for something. So now they turn the buying experience into you being awarded something. So from that point of view, I think it's doing well. I mean, look at the numbers; it don't lie.
The numbers do not lie, man. The numbers do not lie. This may, for the record, I just want to say I've never worked for Rolex. I've never been an authorized dealer. But I feel like this is going to be a contrarian point of view in regards to like the discourse online. But I feel like it's necessary because when the demand far exceeds the supply, like because if it was just first come first serve, there would never be anything in store. There would never be any watches to show. You'll never be able to try anything on. You'll never get it because ultimately the person whoever has the most money will come in. So this is really the only logical way that they can do like this allocation model. And it just is just what it is. And like I'm just going to go off of pure numbers. Like I'm just going off pure numbers. They say they make 1.2 million watches a year. So let's just round it to a million. Let's say Rolex makes 1 million watches a year. And let's say that there's well, they say it's anywhere between 1800 2100 AD. So we would say 2000 ADs. So you figure, okay, that's 500 watches per authorized dealer location. Well, you figure they have 15 core models of the Rolex. So you're dividing that down further. And then when you just look at the Datejust, like you figure you have four configurations. You have, what, seven, eight dial colors. You have, you know, and then even then you have four sizes. So when people say, and it's just like people like they make a million watches a year, it's like it's for scarcity or it's manufacturer scarcity. It's like, well, for one, like they don't need to, even if they double the supply, it's still not going to meet the demand. So when people say like they make a million watches a year, yes, they do, but they don't make a million of your Panda Daytona. They're not making a million of your Pepsi, your Batgirl. So, and I'll just make it clean. So I went to the watches in Switzerland, Cincinnati, and he made it very clean. He explained it very clean to me. He said, we have a wait list of 3,000 people for the Pepsi, both like Jubilee and Oyster. We have a wait list of 3,000 people, and we get 6 to 8 of those watches annually. And you have to allocate those and decide who gets one. And that just goes to show. So people, and I see people really take it personal. Don't get me wrong, I was getting impatient myself, so I know how it is. But then
Oh yeah, I don't like it. I
yeah, I
don't
know,
like it for somebody who loved the brand. No, I don't like it. Yeah.
yeah, but it's just like, and I really feel like an apologist here, and I'm not apologizing for it, but it's like, what do you expect them to do? Because you still want the in-store experience, you still want to go there and try them more. Now, as far as their games and making you, buy other pieces and setting false expectations, I'm not for that. But also, if you buy something that you don't like or you play the game, that's on you. They can't force you to spend anything because if you really want it that bad, just go buy it. There are places where it's readily available, and so
Everything's available.
it's available, and the secondary market is the true market price of it.
What you think is so? Let me ask you then. What do you look at as the most underrated and the most overrated Rolex?
Man, so for me, I would definitely, man, I agree with you, man. I think the Yachtmaster is definitely underrated. If I had to pick something else just to, a different answer, I'm gonna go all the way to the basic, like to the foundation of the catalog, man. I really like the Air King. Like I really like Air Kings, man,
That's
to
a
be
good.
honest.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, I really like Air King. Like I said, I agree with you with Yachtmaster, but just to put another model out there, I think Air Kings don't get enough love. And I would pick Air King as the alternative to what I think is the most overrated Rolex, and I'm going to go with the Explorer one. And
Ooh.
I think that I understand why people like the Explorer one. I know it's a great tool watch, and it's understated. I know a lot of people like the fact that it's understated, but for me personally, it just doesn't do it for me, and that's just me. Like I would say, just looking at the mod, like looking at, like as far as like how it looks, like me personally, I would just go get an Air King. Like if I get an Explorer, like I would just get an Air King. I would get an Air King over it. I would ask for an OP over it. I would ask for an Explorer 2 over it. I would ask for a Datejust over it. You get where I'm going with this,
I
guys.
do. I do.
And I don't think it's a bad watch. I just think it's the most overrated. And I feel like a lot of people gravitate toward, and that's fine because there's no right or wrong answers here. But for me, the Explorer One is the most overrated Rolex in the catalog, bar none. And I'm saying that with emphasis because, oh my God, people, I mean, they love it. They stand
We call it
for,
the gotta the goat gotta watch. Go
yeah,
anywhere, do anything. They feel like it's the number one. Go anywhere, do anything, watch. And honestly, for what they put for the qualifications of a gotta watch, I totally understand. I don't personally think it's the most overrated, but I respect your reasons why.
yeah. And how's it the ultimate gotta watch when it's not even the most when there's a it's not even the quintessential Rolex. Like how is it the most like when you can get when you can get the when you get the date just in its simplest form, smooth on Oyster. Why would I get an Explorer One? I mean yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and knock it. It's not a
I'm
bad
not
watch at
listen,
all. I just think
listen, bro. You
I
know
just
we
think
had these conversations all the time, man.
yeah,
But
I just think it's overrated at all, and I just feel like like people just I feel like people like overly love it and champion it. And I just also feel like when people champion it, I feel like there's kind of like undertones to it because they always go to the fact that it's understated and it's like not flashy, but it's all, you know what I mean? And it's like, I'll say it right now, like I'm not paying 8,000, 9,000, $10,000 for a watch just for it to be understated. Like I want you to see what's going on a little bit. I always say that, and I mean that. And that's probably why I like the Air King. It just has more of a wrist presence, but that's just my preference. Like I like for someone to watch it. I have understated watches. I like also like for someone to have a wrist presence, and that's cool because like it's your prerogative, it's your money. Like I said, we all say buy what you like. So, lastly, the Mount Rushmore, man. Give the people your Rolex Mount Rushmore.
Yep, easy. For me, it's the Daytona. It's an icon. It got the motorsport legacy, the Paul Newman legacy, and since its inception with the ceramic model in 2016, it has always been high demand model. It's fire. It's a Mariner. That's the blueprint of dive watches. A lot of models since have some kind of variation of what the Submariner looks like. It's the if I'm got to buy one Rolex watch and I'll never buy another Rolex watch, or it's my first Rolex watch, a lot of people go towards the Submariner. You can beat it up a little bit. You can wear it wherever. Let me see here. The next watch for me will be, I'm going to go with, for the third one, the Rolex Day-Date. To me is the flagship Rolex watch. From what I hear from a lot of Rolex people who are a part of the brand and authorized dealers, that internally the Rolex Day-Date is their flagship watch. It's
Yep.
the watch that really put Rolex at a point to where, yes, they were known for two watches, right? But then they started like, this is how we pivot. We're going to put these watches on prominent tennis players, golfers, presidents. We're going to put these on world leaders, globally, internationally, actors, superstars. To me, that's my watch that, when I'm old and I'm not really going to start like trying to pick between what watches I'm going to wear, you're going to see Dario wearing his 36 millimeter Day-Date. Or a 40 millimeter Day-Date. And then the last one is going to be between a Datejust and a GMT Master 2. And for me, I am going to pick the Datejust as the everyday timeless watch that you could put on. Oyster case is, I think this is the 100th year for the Oyster case. It's the 100th year anniversary. So I hope Rolex do something to celebrate that. And then having the Cyclops on the dial so you can see the date a little bit better. People, they don't like that, but whatever, bro. Like I don't think I want a Rolex without the Cyclops on there, because that's how you know it's a Rolex. So fluted bezel, Jubilee, give me that. Those are my four. That's my Mount Rushmore of Rolexes. Your turn.
So I feel like I mostly agree with you. I'm gonna go Datejust as we mentioned. Not gonna get too long explanation. It's the quintessential Rolex, the dictionary picture of the Rolex. That and ultimately the Submariner. You can pick either or. Both iconic. I just feel like that's the one that when people get their first one, like more often than not, like that's the one that you picture. You picture fluted, Jubilee, two tone, champagne down. Like I feel like that's just like when you first think of it. So I would say, when I say Datejust, I'm gonna say Submariner for the reasons that you mentioned. It's the most replicated watch out there. It Of all the Rolex models, I feel like it defines its category like the most. Like it's synonymous with dive watches. I've heard other people say like they want to dive. They refer to other dive watches as Submariners when the Submariner is like the Rolex, but like they have essentially, like I said, they are the de facto standard, not only for just dive watches, but really for any category that they compete in. But in particular, like they are like they are the dive watch. It's the quintessential dive watch for sure. So, and like probably the most, and you can argue it's the most iconic. Like I won't like when we had last episode or a couple episodes ago when we had said that Datejust is the most quintessential. A lot of people reached out to us saying that saying the sub or the Day-Date. Valid argument. Valid argument. Like, like if you, any one of those, and number three is the date for that reason. It's the president. We think of the Prezi and what it represents, like, the symbolism of the date. It belongs on the Mount Rushmore for me. Now, number four, it's like for me, it's between the GMT Master 2 and the Daytona. And I made a post about this. I'm going to say it's the GMT Master 2. I'm going to say it's the GMT Master 2. Now, for the
Not
record,
bad.
when I did this and I put a post up about this, I think they're like, as far as like ranking like 1 through 10, I think Rolex had just like, in my opinion, there are like 5 models that are just like 10 out of 10 perfect. And I think they're the 4 that I have on my Mount Rushmore and the Daytona. It's just that I had to make a decision. You can only have 4 for me. It's honestly, it's just more of a, honestly, I'm going to say it's just preference, to be honest with you. Like, I love the Daytona. I love the GMT Master 2. Which one do I like more? I like the GMT Master 2 more than I like the Daytona. So, for that reason, and for that reason only, I will put that on my Mount Rushmore. Datejust, Submariner, Date 8, GMT Master 2.
I think those would be the ones that I'll buy with my money, right? So if I were buying my first 4 Rolexes, starting off with a Datejust, moving over to a GMT Master 2, and then I actually would do Date 8 and Daytona. Like those would be the 4 that I actually buy with my money. And if I'm just thinking about like just being objective, looking at a Mount Rushmore of what it means to society historically and everything, I think I picked mine. What I think my personal watch collection will look like yours. So
Yeah.
I
No,
can't
that's
argue with that. I can't argue with that at all.
yeah,
Like
we
just for
can.
how like my style is, I'll
Yeah.
take a Pepsi, I'll take a Date 8, I'll take a
Be
you know what I'm
clear.
saying, take a Daytona.
I will take a Daytona. Like, I will take
Yeah,
a
yeah,
to be clear,
of
like, for sure.
course.
Like, yeah, like, yeah, I'll take one. Like, that's what they have.
Yeah, of course you would take one.
Well, yeah, I know the Daytona is iconic. The Paul Newman, obviously the Panda, the reverse Panda, all iconic. You get to like the Platinum Daytonas, and I feel like they released the watch of the year last year. To me, was the Daytona Oyster Flex that had that turquoise dial. Like, but for me, it's just, we talk about iconic, but you can't deny how iconic the Pepsi is, how iconic the Batman and Batgirl has been, how the run that the Bruce Wayne is going on now. Like, both of us feel about the zombie. So I just say, for me, like I said, those are my 4. But like I said, I like the Daytona as well. I think it's a perfect watch, and it's really just, you have to pick 4. And I didn't want to straddle the fence. I had to make a selection. There it is. Boom. But there it is, man. So, man, before we close out, any last comments before we close out for the people?
Yeah, man. When we're talking about Rolex, it's a status symbol. It's luxury personified, and some people are like, oh, it's not luxury. It's a masterclass on how to run a luxury brand in general, and it's one of the culture icons. You know what I mean? When you look at certain things, when you listen, you hear Porsche. You feel it exudes a certain kind of energy. When you hear Rolex, it exudes a certain kind of energy. Whether you're in that ballpark, in that arena to buy those items or not, it still exude a certain type of energy. And I think that more brands in that field should tell that story and carry themselves that way. And don't settle. Don't settle. So if you want to tell a Breitling story, Vacheron story, I think Vacheron needs to do a better job of telling their story. I think that like Omega needs to trim some of the fat and tell us and give and listen. Well, you mentioned something about the James Bond and the Omega and the Speedmaster Moon. That's fine, bro. Those are kind of like they're going to do what they're going to do. That story is going to be a story that's going to be like their annual tell that we're going to tell that story, and it's going to be great for the people that love it, right? I think Tell us another one. Tell us something more about the brand that we don't know about the brand itself, and then trim some of the fat on some of the offerings, and have three or four speed masters, three or four sea masters, three or four aqua terrors, and just the fact that they have three that's like can really kick butt. Three or four planet oceans. When you get to the constellations, if you want to tell that story, tell a story, but don't have 35 different options of them, and you want us to get us the dark side of the moon, the left side of the moon, the bottom of the moon, the gray moon, the black moon, the red moon. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro, just stop. That's all I gotta say for this episode, though.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, man. Like, let's get firm with your message, man. I'll end it with just by saying, like, we all like we're talking about Rolex. We're talking about them for a reason. It's the reason that they move the needle. No, it's not the only great watch brand out there. There are plenty of watch brands, and we're going to cover them. We're going to cover them for sure. And like I said, but they're undeniable. They're undeniable. And no matter, like, if you want, I mean, how can you not want, how can you not go, for the crown if you want a respectable like timepiece? If you don't like, we've been in some rooms with some real heavy hitters and had some crazy timepieces that cost houses. Yeah, like a true condo on your wrist. And it's a watch that'll hold its own in any room. But a lot of these watches on the top 10 will as well. So just, like I said, ultimately just buy what you like, buy what you can afford, enjoy it. They're great. I just want to say they're at every single price point. There are great watches to be had. And I'll like end it on this note. Like I know there are high end collectors that have some of the rarest pieces, but when the Furlan Mari dropped, you talking about an $800 watch, $900 watch. They were like tracking it down as well to get their hands on it. So that just goes back. Rio the Watcher got his hands on it. Oh, so he was yeah. So I just say that to say like there are great watches to be had at every price point. Enjoy it and wear what you like. That's it. Signing
That's
off
it.
right there. We go. For Rio the Watcher, I'm Rod Die. In due time, present the Watchers. Until next time, we out.
We out.